Bossman, show here Earl, grand coach of the Charleston Cougars out of CAA. Coach, how you doing, brother? Good to talk to you again, man.
Doing great, man. Just trying to navigate, everything we got going on right now with, start of the season and COVID and things of that nature. But doing great, no complaints. Just trying to get ready for the season here, starting up next week.
No doubt. Because we're up to March here, man. My birthday is kind of March 11th is my birthday. It kind of went downhill on my birthday this year. So when that all went down with you and your team and your staff, how was it from going from being together to being separate, being virtual on campus to being at home? How was it for you, your players, and your staff, man?
Well, I mean, it was kind of crazy, man, because we were up in Washington D.C. for the CAA basketball tournament. When everything kind of broke out, and they talked about the COVID, and they talked about, games getting canceled. And I remember we were riding back from D.C., we were traveling back from D.C. to Charleston. And we got back, I went out to Atlanta to go recruiting on a Friday. And that was the last day I was out, because when I left that kid, watching him work out, I left that kid. I got back in my car. I was driving back to Charleston, and I just listened to radio shows, and they talked about the NCAA tournament being canceled, and all the rest of the conference tournaments being canceled. So it was kind of unbelievable. I've been 20 years in the profession and never experienced anything like that. So, and then just trying to manage the minds of the players, those guys being back at home, asking us, when they can get back in the gym, when can they come back to campus. We had no answers for them. So it was really, really tough, but it forced us to control what we could, and what we could control was our communication. And so we started setting up Zoom meetings and bringing in guest speakers and just trying to encourage those guys the best we could, and having some team exercises. We try to grow as a group, and so we turned a negative into a positive.
Well, Def, I was going to ask you that. How keeping the young men's mind sharp? I'm in my 30s. You're young men, a little younger than I am. But it's like, when things are going badly for young men who haven't had face adversity in their lives before, it can get to them badly. How'd you keep their minds engaged so they won't get depressed, so they can stay upbeat, knowing what's going on with social injustices, with the pandemic and being stuck at home, kind of being a prisoner in their own home? So how was it keeping their minds kind of guided and fresh there?
Yeah, it was a lot thrown at them in a short period of time. I mean, you talk about all the social unrest, and you throw in the COVID and no access to facilities. You can't go work out. You can't play pickup. So that's a triple whammy right there.
Definitely.
All at one time. So just having conversations with those guys, trying to be intentional with our coaching staff, making sure every day or every other day there was some kind of communication with that kid and that parent, just so we knew what they were dealing with, whether they were struggles, whether they were, managing through everything. And so, again, it ended up just being a lot of communication, a lot of opportunities to bring the team together as a group through Zoom. The leadership guys, the leadership team, some of our older guys are setting up, like text threads, or like find like a text thread where they can just stay in touch with each other, but the group text. So it was very, very hard to manage, but I'm glad we got through it. I always feel like adversity is a good thing for a young man to go through if they can get to the other side of it. So, not to say that we're at the other side of all the adversity, because we still got a season to go through, but I think we have seen some tough things, and I think the guys have shown some great, toughness and perseverance and trying to get through all of that stuff.
Definitely, Coach. I know you probably had your assistant coaches help out, with academic advisors help out with the young men. So going from in person to being a virtual, it's not easy. People think it's easy, but it's not. So how is that trying to get your young men with your staff and the academic advisors and support staff to make sure the young men's grades stay up high in that spring semester over the summer, as well as they get ready now coming back, being kind of maybe hybrid or being kind of virtual as well right now?
Yeah, I mean, that was a challenge, because, you got to be a self-starter, self-motivator, man, to do that online stuff. So if you at home, say, for instance, in the spring, if you at home and you got every class on Zoom, then, I mean, you can wake up when you want to wake up. You don't have to be in class. You could actually be, in a class walking around the neighborhood, because you got your phone in your hand. So there was a lot of distractions as it pertained to the online, adjustment for these young men. But I think they managed well. I think these kids are pretty resilient. You find out that they know how to adjust and adapt. They know how to do it. And so they show great resiliency. And I know my guys, they got through it. And then now it's interesting because, you got hybrid schedules where some guys online, some guys in class, some have an option whether they go in or be online. So I'm having a hard time keeping up with if my guys are online or in class,
Wow.
flexibility that the professors are giving them, but again, at this point, man, we've been very competitive academically. We've been making it work. We got 10 days left in this semester of class. So we can get through these 10 days. We'll be able to just focus on some basketball for about a month and a half. And so far, we've done a good job of adjusting to it.
Being a basketball coach, you never want to get your guys injured. So how's it been when it was inactive for all those damn months to ramp them back up so you don't have a nagging knee, ankle, groin, or anything that nags all year long? So how's that ramp up been for you and your guys here so far?
Well, I mean, we got a big time athletic trainer, Chris Horshaw here, and we have a unbelievable strength and conditioning coach, Mark Proto. Just communicating with them, trying to come up with a plan. And what we did, was we just tried to phase them back in. When they came back, I told my staff, I don't want to see a bunch of hardcore workouts. So when we brought them back, man, we were very patient, and we were just giving them daily vitamins every day, man. Let's get some shooting. Let's get some basic ball handling. Let's get some sprint work, but more like at 60%, so you ain't cutting and turning so hard. Just really focusing on the young man's development. And we did that for about the first, month. And then we got to another phase where we started to go, groups of two, groups of six, two groups of six, where we started picking up our pace a little bit, doing some 3-on-3, doing some 1-on-1. So it took a month before we really started to go bone on bone. And then, we just kept phasing it in to where we could get to 100%. But we're at practice number 24 today. We've been rocking and rolling pretty good. We've been very competitive. And so we just prayerful and hoping that, we can continue to keep this thing going in the right direction as we get ready to start up our season next week.
Yeah, speaking of next week, Coach, I can only imagine them come up with rotations and getting guys minutes the right way when they haven't really exerted themselves for a long time. Those scrimmages kind of see what you got. So how's it been trying to install stuff, put in everything you want to put in and knowing you haven't saw it in scrimmages yet, as you start up next week and also knowing who you're going to play, when guys haven't been in that groove the way you want them to be all year long as basketball's become all year-round sport.
Yeah. It forces you to do what you should do every year. Keep it simple, stupid. And so what happens is, at the end of the day, the game of basketball is pretty simple. So
yeah,
you got to defend really hard. You got to rebound, and you got to take care of the ball. Okay. So if you do them three things, you always got a chance to win. So typically we have a lot of set plays. We got a motion offense. We got some ball screen actions. Some isolations for certain players that are very capable of getting stuff done with space. So we have a lot of different things we do, but I've forced myself and my staff have kind of helped me to try to say, hey, look, let's not do what we would typically do and put so much in where we confuse these guys. And so we were fortunate. We got 6 new guys, but 3 of them are transfers. So out of the 6, you got 3 guys who've been in college basketball already, so they've been pretty savvy. So I've been able to throw some stuff at them, and they've been able to handle it. So that's been fortunate thing for us. But really, man, just trying to keep it a little more simple. The game of basketball ain't that complicated. You're trying to put the ball in the basket, and you're trying to stop them from putting it in there. So, I think that's what we had to do, and I think a lot of coaches had to try to be a little more simplistic, with the short period of time to get everything in.
I think this year, Coach, playing hard is going to be the turn for a lot of games. Who plays harder? Who has more energy? Who's hustling harder? Because this year is so different. At the end of the year, hey, you might have talent and skill, but if you just play harder that night, they might have somebody out with COVID or whatever. You can still get the win as long as you play hard and stick to your simple principles. You can win the game no matter what.
Right, right. Well, you're right. I mean, you're 100% right because it's going to come down to defense, toughness, and then effort. And what I mean by that is, if you go in the gym, and I think that's what happened in the NBA bubble. If you go in the gym to play a game, well, you can't depend on all the 5,000 to 7,000 fans to bring that juice to you. So you got to bring your own energy. Like you got to be. I told somebody the other day, the teams that are going to be successful are the teams that have players where they guys really love this game, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
playing because they desire to compete is really high. They ain't playing for no fans. They don't need the fans to kind of be there to watch them. They play because they love to compete. And so whoever can bring their own energy, and whoever got some of those self-motivated guys to get the group going, or them energetic guys to get the group going, I think they're gonna have a better opportunity to be successful.
Now, Coach, how is that scheduling thing going, man? Because, bro, I know it was tough for you because they took away 2 weeks of scheduling, and then you got to worry about trying to schedule around rules in different states. Because I know here in Georgia, about like in Carolina, is same kind of similar rules, but up north is different, right? So scheduling games, how did that go? Trying to go right around COVID and knowing the rules states got different rules.
I mean, yeah, scheduling was a challenge. We were able to figure it out. I mean, obviously, when they pushed the season back from November the 10th to November 25th, we'd already had, between November the 10th and 25th, we'd already had 5 or 6 games on the schedule. We would have played 6 games. So, and 3 of them was going to be in the ESPN tournament, Charleston Classic, which is to take place in our building. So, when they pushed the season back, obviously that Charleston Classic no longer was going to be able to take place here. They tried to move it to Orlando and do the ESPN tournament down there in Disney. We waited around for that a little while, and that didn't work out. So we just moved on with our schedule. So we were very fortunate to, put together a very presentable schedule with 5 games at home and 2 games, on the road, with the 2 games on the road being one in Atlanta at Georgia State and the other one being in Chapel Hill at North Carolina. So other than that, we got 5 games at home, and so I think we were able to do a really good job of reshuffling the deck and making it work.
Thinking about your conferences, a lot of these are bus trips, so you don't really get on a plane. So that helps you out a lot. So unless you really got to go up to Northeastern, that's probably a plane. But beyond there, Hofstra maybe, but really it's a good bus league to do because you don't really get on a plane and worry about getting your guys affected on a plane as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we gotta be on that bus a good bit this year. Typically, man, we would charter those flights, or we would go a commercial flight to a lot of those games in the league. If you think about it, we do have 2 Virginia schools, and we have the 7 8 hours. So we would charter those flights or take a commercial flight. And then you talked about the 2 northern schools up north, New York and Boston. Those are flights as well. But we got some teams in Carolina where we can get around to on a bus. If we had to stretch it and take a bus to get to one of the Virginia schools, we can. This year with COVID, I'm more inclined to want to be on a bus this year, just with my team, my bubble, who I know tested 3 times a week. I know those guys are negative, and we'll travel together. So I'd rather spend a couple more hours on a bus to do that instead of getting on a plane all the time and being exposed with all these other different people who you don't even know if they took a COVID test at all, or if they're not healthy.
I'm afraid coach this. Now, how'd you address with your young men about social unrest in the country? I've been African American head coach, coached a lot of young black men. So I just kind of approached them with talking about what's going on so they can understand better, like you and I understand about the world and how to approach it, handle themselves going forward for 2020 and beyond.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing with that, man, is you have to be educated. You can't just be out here looking on Twitter and looking on all these social platforms to try to figure out what's really going on. Because what will happen is the more you look at social media and the more you just kind of pay attention to what you hear through that social outlet, you might not have the accurate information. So I guess the biggest thing you tell the guys is to educate yourself, man. Like, and don't be so quick to put stuff out that you're not sure your stance on. Like, don't be tweeting stuff. Don't be always, retweeting if you don't have the information you need, because I think the education part is the most important thing. Understanding that here in 2020, this ain't the first time you've seen any social unrest. I mean, this has been going on for a while. So, and it's a responsibility that they have to try to represent their family, themselves in the community by making good decisions to maybe reverse some of the thoughts to make people have of, them and their culture, by being a good citizen, being a good student, so you blaze a trail for the next young man who come after you, by treating people with respect, again, educating yourself. And then the way I look at it is, choose love. You don't have to have hate to try to combat what you see out there, man. You got to choose love and go that route. But just trying to educate them. Obviously, if they want to have a voice, and they want to get out and do some things to try to bring an attention to what's been going on and try to, make a positive change. I tell them, if you want to have a voice, just make sure you know what you're voicing and just make sure you know what you're fighting for. If you do that, I'll support you. So that's kind of how we've been handling it. We got a really good group and we got a really good staff to kind of support these players and communicate with them. We've had a lot of open discussions, about race, and obviously we got diverse groups. So, we got all races in our locker room. We got kids from Africa who don't know nothing about racism. We got a kid from Australia. We got guys, white coaches, black coaches. So we've been able to have, for the first time, man, like I'm 40 years old. The first time I've ever had these real open conversations with such a diverse group, and it's been healthy because it's something we wanted to talk about for years on both sides, and we've just been able to start having these real conversations now. So I think having real conversations and not holding back and letting different backgrounds and different races express themselves about different topics, we start to understand and appreciate the differences of each other and understand maybe why he don't see it the way I see it and I don't see it the way he see it.
Oh, definitely. Coach Grant, thank you for your time as always, my brother. Best of luck to you. Good to see you, man. I hope to see you. Jordan, let me know when you play in state, man. So I'll try to come and see you guys play. So let me know. I'll see your text. Let me know when y'all playing outside so I can make sure I come and see you guys play Robin and those boys.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That'd be awesome, man. Appreciate you having me on, man. This